Hi everyone, this is Michelle Peterson Clark. I'm the content marketing queen. I'm with the wonderful Europe guy, Mike Neubauer, this week. Mark Angelos is, where is he? I think he's in like some black hole in America that doesn't have any internet. Mike, how is that possible?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
called
come on.
Yosemite. Yosemite National Park. It's good to disconnect, I suppose, if that's still a real thing. So
Yeah,
when he
yeah, I don't
watches the
know.
replay, we're still talking about you, Mark. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and it feels a bit weird when it's only two of us, doesn't it? Because I mean, I think the three of us do such a great job of bouncing off of each other. Um, but like I don't know about you, but whenever we go anywhere, we have internet dongles and a couple of phones, and we make sure that we do all sorts of things to keep the internet going. So good for him, though, which is great. And so, how have you been this week, Mike?
Good. Been busy, building like crazy, but all good things.
Yeah, excellent. Yep, I've been busy too. Doing this month of my history travel newsletter is Paris, so I've been doing lots and lots of things when it comes to Paris, which is really good.
You just came back,
Okay,
right?
yeah, I did. Yeah, we were there for 5 days, and yeah, it was pretty excellent. It was really good. Unfortunately, it rained a fair bit, but yeah, it's a bit weird. We've had a couple of holidays this summer, and the whole time it rained, which has not been great. It hasn't really been summer in England, not like hot in America and Southern Europe. But anyway,
Well,
um,
I look forward to reading the blog.
thanks. Thanks. Okay, so this is episode 40 of Web 3 by 3. And I've labeled it today as the future of Web3 because a few of the articles that we're going to talk about tonight are really looking at companies that are in web 2 or they're financial organizations or tech companies, and they're taking a few more steps towards being in web 3, so we're going to talk about that tonight. So the first story we've got is about PayPal launching its stablecoin. So maybe you might be able to just talk a little bit about that, Mike, while I put the links in for people, because we need to be able to show people what the stories are, and I can't talk and listen and and post links at the same time. Like I'm good, but I'm not
Y-
that good.
Yep, yep.
So PayPal launching its stablecoin. Tell us all about it.
So a stable coin is basically a backing mechanism that other tokens can sort of create liquidity pools towards. So for example, if I were to create my own token or my business was to create its own token and we wanted people to be able to openly exchange that token on an open marketplace, whether it's exchanging it for other tokens or changing it back into fiat, they would need to create liquidity pool. I would need to create a liquidity pool for my business token and back it to something. Now, the best
Yep.
option to back it is with what's called the stability coin, which is typically linked to some sort of fiat, usually a US dollar or some sort of a currency. So when the currency fluctuates, the coin goes with it. That's why it's stable, right? Like it's stable
Yeah.
against the economy. Um, what PayPal did here, though, is that they created this stable coin in an effort for people to start leveraging and creating liquidity pools off of their own. But they took one step too far and didn't realize that, I guess the code that they're creating and the basis of this technology allows for auditing of the code to understand what accessibility they have on each individual user's account. And I found that to be extremely fascinating because they got called out on the potential to wipe the slate
Yeah.
clean on people who were using their token as a backer. So, what exactly does that mean? Well, the way that any smart contract is deployed, it's essentially a series of coded functions. And those coded functions get infused to the blockchain, and any call to the blockchain can basically execute one of those functions. So in this particular case, there were two specific functions that were embedded in the code. One of them was what they called function freeze, which basically allowed PayPal to execute the function and freeze the balance of any
Yep.
particular user.
Yep.
Then below that, they had another function, which is called wipe frozen address, which means that they can essentially wipe out and burn the tokens associated with that frozen account. Well, that is everything against Web3. Coders and, auditors of smart contracts, which there are many, many, many of them, they
Yeah,
read this and brought it to light. And now they
yeah.
have a big decision to make on how they either fix this or they redeploy another contract for their stability coin.
And so it's not unusual, though, is it, for these sorts of things to, be written in a way that, maybe being devil's advocate, unintended consequences. So probably in their mind, they were thinking, oh, this is good, they do it. I mean, and people like you, Mike, who know about smart contracts and how the back ends of these things work, come in and have a look at this stuff, and then they go, oh, hang on a minute, did they realize that there's this and this? Now maybe they did, but if they didn't, the beauty of Web3, isn't it, and we've seen this a number of times before, and you've shown us different examples over the last year that we've been doing this podcast, that you know things do come up like this and things can be fixed. So I haven't seen anything today, but have PayPal come out and said anything about that? Do you know?
I don't believe so. Again, they're going to, try to sweep this under the rug as much as possible. But, as much as we keep saying that bigger players entering the space is only going to be good things, they do need to play within the boundaries of what the technology provides. And if they try
That's
to
right.
skate one under the rug, they will get called out on it, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is so that they do not have this power. They do not have this monopolistic power and this centralized authority. And the technology, again, is speaking volumes to what they are capable of doing or not capable of doing. Because, look,
Yeah.
anybody that is savvy enough to launch their own token and say, look, I want to create this liquidity pool and I want to be able to back it to something that's stable, you're going to do your research on which stability coins are going to be applicable, especially if there's money
Yeah.
involved. If you're creating an
Yes.
internal economy, that's a whole different discussion. But when you're
Yeah.
creating something that people can actually exchange outward for your token, you do not want to have anybody's tokens at risk with a stability contract that is in jeopardy. This is exactly what happened with Rally. Rally had this
Yeah.
whole system, and underneath it, all these users used the Rally token as their stability coin.
Yeah.
Rally crumbled, and everything fell apart underneath it.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
And we know people that are a bit burnt by that, don't we?
correct. So let's give a hypothetical example with this PayPal scenario. If something happened where somebody used their stability token as a liquidity pool, and afterwards people called them out on it, whatever happened, like people were made aware of the situation and everybody sold the tokens all at the same time, guess what
Yeah.
happens to the PayPal stability token? It sinks. And everybody that
Not
was
stable
sleeping
anymore.
that night wakes up the
Yeah.
next morning to find out that the liquidity that they had set to their own token is now gone.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would think that they're going to sort the contract stuff side out. I mean, why they didn't have someone. I mean, surely, I mean, all these contracts smart contracts have to be audited. So I can't understand why that wasn't notified, and maybe it was, and maybe they did know and they hoped no one would find out. I mean, certainly in a Web2 environment, don't we? Like, we don't know 100% how Facebook run their back systems, or how Twitter or X or whatever, how their back systems were run. There's APIs for you to access parts of it, but how they do things on the back end, it was sort of, there was a lot of smoke and mirrors. But whereas when you're talking about a Web3 environment and smart contracts, people can actually go through them and work out exactly what you can and can't do. And that, I think, is one of the things that a lot of these large players in the internet sphere have not been subjected to before. And so this is a new thing for them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, again, there's might be a completely different purpose on why they added something like that. Maybe somebody who broke any kind of terms and regulations that are set forth within PayPal can no longer utilize the system. But once again, that's a centralized concept. And that, I think, is what the technology is superseding with their
Yes.
efforts in creating this is our policy mentality, because the technology won't allow it. And again, they can do whatever they want in their smart contract. They can write whatever code they want. But the
Yeah.
minute they bring it to market and when they get called out on it and people don't use it anymore because of what's in it, they can't be shocked. The whole point of this is about
Yeah.
transparency.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And so if people are wondering, what it is that PayPal have said you're going to be able to do with the token on PayPal. So you'll be able to transfer it between PayPal accounts. You'll be able to transfer it to external digital wallets, so you can put it onto other wallets that you might have. You can pay for goods and services with it. So if you buy something with PayPal on a website and you've got the PayPal coin in your PayPal account, then you'll be able to use that to pay for it. And so, and buy other crypto and stuff like that. So it's kind of really like they're trying to set it up, aren't they? Like as if it's going to be like having your credit card or your bank account attached to your PayPal account.
Yeah, I mean, they have that in a Web 2 system currently, right? To integrate it
Yeah,
into Web 3, that's what I think the failure of what they wrote in that smart contract is about. I'm reading the comments here on our Bolt Live. What's up, Bolt
yeah,
World?
yeah,
Spanner brings up a good point. I'm going to call out his comment here. The corporate inability to give up control. Now, this is
yeah,
something that we've discussed on several occasions on this show. They just truly don't understand and cannot bridge the concept of what they've been able to get away with in the Web 2 world, where they control everything, and they treat their customers almost like pawns that they can control in whatever system that they have, versus the
yeah,
technology now being the gap or the bridge that connects the gap between what the consumer was and what the company is attempting to do. And until the corporate structure understands and recognizes that the technology does provide that element of control to the people, they will not succeed in providing these types of Web 2 style um, policies in a Web 3 technology.
yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the interesting things about this, if we put aside for a moment if there's some issues with the smart contract, but if we look at what does this mean in terms of users in Web3 and things like that. So PayPal have like 435 million users or something. They do, billions of transactions a year. The dollar amount is incredible. There's the one of the articles I was looking at from Web3 Academy said that, the average is 51 transactions a year on a PayPal account. So what that means, I guess, if we've talked about it often, haven't we, that exposure to Web3 elements and bringing people on through frictionless type of onboarding is what's going to help have a Web3 environment, a decentralized environment, become more mainstream. So in that regard, having someone as big as PayPal do this is obviously, I think, is a good thing.
As long as, again, it's done correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've seen some of these monster players fall flat on their face because they did not understand the construct of the technology. So, look, time will tell. I think that, Elon still has his teeth into what PayPal is, and that's a good sign for
Yeah.
where it's going in crypto. And again, look, I'm not suggesting that they are the answer to the mainstream onboarding into this process, but the fact that they are taking their big toe and dipping it into the pond, that's a sign of good things to come.
Yeah.
And while I'm all about the decentralized component of the technology, I just want to be very crystal clear, and it's been brought up here in the chat as well. There does need to be standards. There do need to be certain regulations that are in play, and I think most of those regulations need to happen more on the exchange level than the actual contract level. Right. So right now they just created a token with the ability to create stability. People don't need to use their token. There's a million other tokens that they can go and they can create liquidity
Yeah.
pools with. But the
Yes.
exchanges are the ones where we need to start with the regulations, because that's where we're going to figure out which players are going to be using this for malicious intent versus actual business enhancement.
Yeah. Which is a great segue, Mike, to our next story, which is the one that you picked this week. And it's about the race for Ether's future with EFTs. and 6 companies who are seeking SEC approval to be able to do that. Now, while you talk about it, I'll put the link into LinkedIn and Bolt so that people can have a look at what the article is that we're looking at.
So you like that lobbed pitch that I just threw at you with,
Yeah.
so you can knock it out of the park with that one. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
like we discussed this a couple episodes ago with respect to BlackRock getting involved in Bitcoin and creating these futures. Mark is obviously better equipped to discuss this on the financial side of things and the way that things work on Wall Street. It was only a matter of time before Ether was the next big player in discussion. And obviously, Ethereum comes with a multitude of different components, all of the layer twos that are attached to Ethereum that are arguably more popular in certain regards than, some of these other major blockchains. I can argue that Polygon is more popular than Solana.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of advantages that Ethereum brings that other chains have not implemented or have not had the marketable success the same way that Ethereum has. So it was only really a matter of time if the floodgates kind of or if the dam started to crack a little bit with Wall Street and, the ETFs getting involved with crypto. My biggest fear, though, and we talked about it on that last episode, these exchanges are not actually trading in crypto. They're basically creating paper and they're just trading the paper, right? So they're just creating these futures, which is essentially a market manipulation on the way that the actual trading of the tokens can occur. They do this with stocks all the time. They do this with hedge funds all the time. And again, Mark is much better equipped to discuss this. So I want to be able to circle back to this part of the discussion when he gets back from, no man's land, USA. But I really feel that this again is, as long as it's conducted in a way that we can audit, and this doesn't just simply become another piece of paper that's floated around Wall Street for millions of dollars, there still does need to be some sort of a purchase in the crypto realm of what the token brings on chain. And I think that if we just eliminate that component of it, all we did was recycle and resurface, everything that the technology was designed to escape from.
Yeah, and so my husband and I, John and I, were talking about it this afternoon, and essentially, what we were trying to work out was, is this good or bad for Ethereum? I mean, they're not actually trading Ethereum, are they? What they're betting against is whether or not Ethereum's going to go up or down, and so it's not like when you have a futures contract on a stock, because that's in the one place or whatever. And the problem with all of this is that they're all on different exchanges, as you've talked about. So it's not like they're all in one spot, so that, the movements up and down, they kind of all relate to each other and all of that. People can have these on various exchanges. And I mean, it just seems to me like it would be a mess.
So I'll reference something in, standard Wall Street construct that I think all of us could relate to. If you've seen the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Is it Dan Aykroyd? I don't know.
Yes. Spanner's mentioned it, I think. Yes.
Yeah. So funny, Spanner, you just mentioned that. I just saw that comment come through. That's hilarious. But these guys traded in futures. And it was in the movie, it was the future of orange juice. And it was all predicated on the crop yield of a report that was issued, right? So they're trading on what they think the output of oranges were going to be, simply based on a report. And that was the whole concept of the movie, for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
The same thing here. They are going to be betting on nothing. And that's what they're going to be buying and selling. And they're going to be funneling millions, if not billions of dollars through, which may or may not yield the results they need it to, because again, the power lies in the people with the technology. People still need to buy and sell and create the marketplace for the respective tokens. When the SEC agreed for BlackRock to get involved with Bitcoin, I had several friends contact me saying this was the sign that I needed to get into crypto. And my response to that was, well, you're already way late, because they're not in crypto. So be very careful about what you hear out there without understanding what this truly is, because all it is buying and selling against something that doesn't exist and that they cannot possess. And that is dangerous. We saw what happened with that, and in the video game store, GameStop.
Yeah,
Like
GameStop.
Wall Street tried to get together and take control of things like that, and they fell flat on their face because the power still lied with the people in order to make those transactions occur.
Yeah.
Shout out
And
Don Amici.
yeah, and apparently the Wall Street Bets group is still going. Our son Josh was telling us about it last night when we were talking about something else, which is hilarious. I think Trading Places was the first time as a kid I ever heard about pork belly futures.
Yep. I'm sure it's a lot of firsts for stock market and information. I mean, great movie, hilarious. I mean, one of
Yeah,
Eddie Murphy's top
terrific
movies for
movie.
sure.
Yeah.
And what a great concept. But again, like where this moves in the crypto world, we'll see. All I'm saying is that again, we need to maintain focus on where things are moving on chain, because that is where things are audited. That is where we can see the transparency. That PayPal article is exact proof of that.
Yeah. So are the SEC going to approve it, do you think?
I think they already said yes to Bitcoin. Why wouldn't they say no to Ethereum?
Don't know.
I mean,
I
again, I think that if the SEC starts filing these protocols and allowing people to trade futures in that, obviously there's a volume issue, right? Like the SEC isn't going to
Yes.
approve, my ops coin because 10 people own it, right? Like there's going to be
Yeah.
volume things at stake, and that already exists. You can't just get any random token listed on Coinbase, for example, right? There's specific
Yes, that's
volume
correct.
metrics that go into that. So if the SEC can say, yeah, you want to be able to trade futures in this, sure, no problem. It's going to cost X amount. Okay, well, that X amount can easily get subsidized based around the paper that they feel that some of these hedge funds can push. And before you know it, you're starting to see illusionary crypto being traded on Wall Street.
And so do you think that they'll choose which exchanges? Like, will they limit the exchanges, do you think, or will it just be a free-for-all?
I mean, limit the exchanges in which like the SEC
Well,
says.
as in certain ones, because I mean, as we've talked about before, like stocks listed on the stock market, there's basically in each country, there's one major, maybe two stock markets, right? So if you're listing on the stock market, that's what you've got. And if I write a futures contract for one of those stocks, it's on, the New York Stock Exchange, or it's on the LSE or the Australian Stock Exchange. But with this, it could be on any number of one of the exchanges that you could put your token on, or that the token is on. And so then the contract for the futures I don't understand how does that apply to every exchange, or are they applying for particular exchanges? How would that
Well,
work?
the SEC does not police all
No.
exchanges, right? It only does the United States. So,
Sure.
with that, if they give approval for it, yeah, they might be on the New York Stock Exchange. London might say no. So therefore they can't, those same hedge funds cannot trade internationally. Now, I think that there's advantages to the way that the technology works like that. But again, just replace with what they're calling this Bitcoin ETF with Apple or mobile or whatever other major company they can sell and buy and sell these futures with. It's no different, because everything is still in this Wall Street world. It's not on chain. If they were buying cryptocurrency, then it would be very, very difficult for the SEC to police this on a global level. And that, again, is one of the advantages of where we're at with the technology.
Yes. Yeah. So Spanner's asked a question about whether or not we think that this has a potential to be another GameStop. If crypto people got together and decided to go up against the establishment, like what's that scenario? Let's work through that scenario for him.
Well, there's many different scenarios, right? They could bet the futures to go down. Now, I wouldn't imagine that they're filing this because they're betting on the futures to go up.
Going up.
But
yeah.
They are all predicated on controlling or trying to control the idea of where the market is versus what is on chain literally shows where the market is. You can look right now and see what the price of the Ether is, and you can look at that over a 24-hour period of time. I think that if they try these market manipulation tactics, especially when they're limited to one stock exchange, let's call it New York, which has Monday through Friday hours, 7 days or 5 days a week, holidays off, versus a global crypto market that's open all year round, any day of the week, all day, every
24
day.
hours a day.
If they try to, forgive my language, if they try to fuck around, they will find out.
Yeah.
Now, they have a lot of money at play, right? Like they have assets that they can easily put towards these futures, and they can keep shoveling money against the wall. But I think what GameStop provided us is that they were reliant on a centralized system in the SEC shutting down trading, right? That won't happen on chain. That can't happen on chain. And that's one of the disadvantages that they have in betting futures that they cannot control.
Yeah. Hopefully, Spanner, that answers your question. Good answer, Mike.
It's a complicated topic because, again, we have never seen, like, we've seen this before, but in limited capacity, right? Like I can go dig a hole in my backyard and strike oil. Doesn't mean that it's going to impact the future of oil markets. That these guys buy and sell all day long on. So, I still feel that the way the technology is in place and the fact that it is a global economy, a global currency, a global trading system, it's going to be very difficult for these bigger players to come in and play the game of baseball that they're used to playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's another, we do lots of let's, watch this space type of talks, don't we?
Well, this is one of those let's flag it conversations because I think, I think we're going to revisit this pretty quickly here.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we move on to our third and our final article for tonight? And this afternoon, Microsoft and Aptos Lab announced that they are forming a collaboration which will use Microsoft's AI models to be trained using Aptos Labs verified blockchain information. So for those people that don't know, Aptos Labs now is worth around $4 billion, which is incredible amount of money. They haven't been around all that long. They have had several funding rounds. People like Anderson and Horowitz are, I'm just going to look at my thing again that I have so I can tell you. Binance Labs have invested in them. Anderson and Horowitz, Paxos, PayPal Ventures are also in with them. They've got several really high profile investment firms that put money into them over the past 12 to 18 months. And they're a blockchain. And they've got this partnership now with Microsoft using the AI and the blockchain. And Microsoft are going to use their blockchain to test out various things. I'm going to put the article into into Bolt and on LinkedIn. So would you like to comment on what you think about the news that came out? It was only about, 3 hours before we finalized what we were going to talk about today. So I thought we'll just drop it in and have a chat about them.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I've been busy building like crazy, so I haven't had the bandwidth to stay on top of some of these more recent articles. So I'm glad you found it and brought it up so we could discuss it. Look, I think that we sometimes need to take a step back and stop talking about, crypto tokens and ETFs and, NFTs and Bored Ape pictures. And, let's just focus on the fundamental root of what actual blockchain technology is. It's nothing more than a ledger, right? It's a data storage filing system that is accessible to anyone and everyone, assuming, of course, it's a public blockchain. And it's a storage of data. It's a storage of sequential files that are on, that create links that build this chain. Now, if you have a system of what we'll use air quotes on and say artificial intelligence, a learned software that is designed to basically reference any bits of information and reply with some sense of an output, this is an immutable storage system that they can reference and that technology can evolve off of. When the Web3 hype train started, I dove into the deep end to try to understand what the technology was. That's what my focus has been since. Then
Yeah.
everybody jumped off of that train and onto the AI train the minute that started rolling down the tracks. But they didn't realize that there was a merger that should and was definitely going to happen between the respective technologies, because one is an essential piece to the future and the longevity of the other. And vice versa. I think AI also has a major impact in the way that Web3 can be evolved. Whether it's the advancements of specific technologies and hardwares that can implement Web3 onboarding with ease, creating digital wallets, just like people create, profile names, having the ability to access them using biometrics, using passwords, using a very standard system, but instead of it's being stored on some Facebook server in some, ridiculously large warehouse that, has fencing around it, the same as the White House, because it's such important information. Everything is now stored on this blockchain technology.
Yeah. And, they've talked about too about how they've got a thing called Aptos Assistant, and they have different GitHub elements and stuff. And what they're going to be using is the AI and the blockchain integration to, I think, basically develop and, create resources that will be able to further advance and extend how the technology is used and what it's used for. And I just thought it was a really interesting thing because we have talked before about Microsoft and them being involved in AI, but they haven't really done very much in terms of um, doing anything about blockchain. They've talked about different things and stuff, but I saw this really as one of their their first major kind of concrete. We're going to, put a flag in the sand and actually start to develop our stuff more around this, the Web3 decentralized type of approach. And I just thought from that point of view, it was interesting. My understanding is it's been, 3 or 4 years in the making, this discussion with them. So, kudos to the Aptos people. And if you're on LinkedIn, Charlie Aitkins is the marketing guy there, and he's pretty switched on LinkedIn, so you should follow him. And so yeah, so I thought it was interesting from that point of view, and it was kind of breaking news, which I thought was really good too.
So I just Googled something. I guess I could have used an AI tool. Um, how many companies? How many companies does Microsoft officially own? And the number I got was over 225 they acquired. They purchased stakes in 64 companies and they made 25 divestments. If they create their own blockchain, now you're creating an ecosystem that every single one of those companies can build off of, right? That is where the future of this technology goes from a corporate perspective. Each one could literally have their own chain. Now, is it advantageous for people to have access to all these various chains? Well, now the technology is going to evolve where we can do cross-chain elements.
Yeah.
Um, I guess one of the things that made e-commerce so powerful was the ability for certain transactors, like third-party transaction companies such as PayPal, to be able to accept all major credit cards using their service. So you implement their transaction portal, they can cover any major credit card around the world for a purchase, and that opened up your marketplace from a 6-block radius to global. And I think that this technology is going to provide something very similar. We had conversations like this many moons ago when Amazon talked about implementing crypto into their marketplace.
Yes.
And they wanted to use Avalanche as their blockchain. And it was brought up then, well, what the hell? Like, they have every resource in the world. Why wouldn't they create their own blockchain?
Yeah.
And again, that's only a matter of time. They will create another Ethereum where other companies that sell on their platform will be able to create their own micro chains or projects off of that main Amazon chain. And we saw how this works already. How many projects are built on Ethereum? How many built are Polygon? Like, this model has been proven. Again, there's still major issues with onboarding, but this is where I feel like a company like Microsoft can help with that. You know, maybe if you
Yes.
buy a new computer or a new phone that has an embedded Microsoft technology in it, maybe that hardware comes with a digital wallet already implemented.
Yeah.
And then users
Yeah.
can simply just set it up like they would any particular profile, and boom, they're connected to a Web3 world.
Yeah. And we've talked, haven't we, about, why wouldn't Apple, they have a wallet currently on iPhones. Why wouldn't they necessarily have a digital wallet that comes automatically installed on your iPhone when you get it? And those, people are using it and they don't, they won't even necessarily know that they're in a Web3 environment because it'll just be what they're used to on their phones. So,
Imagine,
yeah.
okay, so let's take a trip down memory lane here. 1996, 1997, and you would go up to random people and say, "Hey, what's your screen name?" You know, some people would get it, some people wouldn't get it. Some people created these fictitious, entities about them just because they could, and they can hide behind this screen. We're kind of in that era now where it's like, what's your digital wallet, or what's your, ETH address, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty soon it's going to be pretty standard, because you ask anybody now, what's your screen name? They all understand what you're saying.
Yes, that's correct. So that's taken what, 20 odd years, 25 years. So yeah,
Time
you'll
flies.
still be you're young, Mike. You'll still be around then. Although hopefully I still will be too. I'm not that old,
I
but
hope so too.
so that was our last article. Was there anything else that we wanted to? Just having a look at our run sheet. It's hard with two screens to try and work out everything. No, that was all that I had on there. Was there anything else you'd like to bring up about any of the things that we talked about tonight?
No, I mean, I thought that the title of this episode was interesting in the way that the topics were presented, because we always talk about the future, right? Like it's coming, like we are neck deep in it now, right? We're seeing these things happen now. So where does it go from here? Well, it's just an evolution of where it is now, and I think
Yeah,
all of this is relevant to the future. But I think we need to really not dismiss what is currently occurring, because 20, 30 years from now, when we look back and say, where did it all begin, like we were the ones in the trenches that
yeah,
we're paving the way to where this is going to end up.
yeah, that's right. And some of us, like my husband's been around this space since 2017, and me vicariously because I used to have to listen to it. And so we've done two crypto winters so far, haven't we? So like we're waiting for the next lot of sunshine to come again, and just like housing markets and stock markets, it's going to go up and down, and over the next 10 or 15 years there's going to be so much advancement in the technology as well that
So it's
it's
all
it's
relative based around economies, right? I mean, if people have money
yeah,
to play with, they'll play in other technologies. If the economy is strong and people have more funds available, that's when we're going to start seeing booms like this. All up until we get to a point where the technology and the reliability of where these things can go for liquidity are not reliant on a standard economy anymore, right? You
yeah,
can go and you can buy your groceries with crypto. You can pay your rent with crypto. You can pay your mortgage with crypto. There's going to be crypto banks that you can set up accounts with. Like all of this is what is around the corner. Now,
yes,
keeping in mind the decentralized component of it, but there will be protocols in place that are designed to replace the current system. And I think that's what is kind of scaring the hell out of people around the world, particularly at,
yeah,
corporate and government levels.
yeah. And so at this point, we are to tell people that this is not financial advice. We are not giving financial or legal or any of those sorts of things, and that it is just, usually three of us, but tonight, two of us talking about the news and how to analyze or make sense of the news in Web3. And that's what we do each week at 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. British summertime, and we will be back next week at the same time, and hopefully Mark will be able to join us next week. And unless there's something else, if you'd like to say something before we go, Mike, then we'll sign off.
No, I'm really enjoying this this Bolt Plus integration. I think we get some really great insight. It allows us to, communicate directly with everybody there. So, I'm really happy with
It's
this
great.
platform, and I'm excited to keep building here.
It's great. Yes, it's excellent. And we get great support from them as well, which is fantastic. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great week. Bye.
Good night.